I started my match preview by saying that Keegan phrase maybe needed a change. I'd love it if we beat them again after the League Cup battering. To get to the point now, let's just mix it up. I love beating them because it's happening more and more, but it's never going to get old. Manchester United 0, Newcastle 1 in a game that should have been 4, should have been 5, and that classic, famous Philippe Albert chip to complete one of our most famous victories.
Looking for number 5 with Philippe Albert. Oh!
We probably could have got a few more. Absolute destruction, and we're going to talk about the match on this video. So Newcastle fans, do us a favour and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black and White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. Yes, if you hadn't noticed, I am stood behind a stadium that you might recognise. A very snowy, very cold St James's Park is behind us. And I don't often come over to do videos in the daytime like this, but I was picking up Mags, who I've just got here, and that's why I've got a lead like I'm chained in. She's just patiently waiting for me to do this video. I'm not going to scoot up because she's soaking wet. And as you can see, I am absolutely freezing cold. I look like I'm going on a trek around the Antarctic. I can't even put my bag on the floor because it's that soaking wet with puddles. So I thought, whilst I'm over Newcastle picking the dog up, why not get some content? Now, there wasn't a match vlog for Man United, but before I get into all that, Newcastle fans, do us a favour. Give us a little likey, Lou. Likey. I'm standing up for it and do the likey, Lou. Whack that subscribe button if you like my opinion by the end of this video. And there wasn't a match vlog for Man United, because as I said on my preview, I was in the prawn sandwich area last night. Loved it, and I did try and get as much footage as I could to try and put something together, but it was a free bar. It was unlimited beef, unlimited pork, unlimited Jaeger bombs, and we beat Man United. And every time I tried to get a video, it was just too difficult. There was too much going on. Finish your drinks, get back outside, and I just scrapped it. And I couldn't come straight down after the match to speak to fans because obviously I was enjoying myself. So there was no match vlog. The food was lovely. Hospitality for me is something I like to do now and again. If I'm lucky enough to get offered the chance and invited along, I'll take it. Do I prefer being in the strawberry corner? Of course I do. The singing, the chanting around the people that I love being around, that I'm lucky enough to sit next to. But it is nice to do once in a while. Food was lovely. We had Mr. Fox, who a lot of you, it was just as I was born, might know from the earlier Keegan days, the winger. He came in and did a little bit of talking. It was a really, really good night. And of course, once the full-time whistle went, the Jaeger bombs flowed. So there's no match vlog because I was living it up large with the posh folk in my padded seat. But what a night. Anyone who watches my videos knows that Man United is my cup final. It's the fixture I look for all season. Winning in the League Cup was fantastic with our third team. But to beat them the way that we did last night, and I said at the start of this video, we should have maybe eclipsed that famous 5-0 because that's how much we battered them. That's not an exaggeration. That is not an exaggeration. From the first whistle to the last, the intensity, the pressing, that's some of the best pressing, organised, disciplined pressing of the football and of their defence and their goalkeeper and their midfield that I've seen under Eddie Howe. And that's a big statement because that's our identity. But it was absolutely incredible. And Man United, who we knew their form was decent coming into this, but I think that papered over the cracks. They haven't been very good, and we talked about how they don't have any identity really as a football club, struggling for goals. We'd scored more home goals than they'd scored home and away. That's what we were coming up against, the team really struggling. And before I get on to Newcastle, too many people are going to make that performance out about all Man United. The mainstream media will have a field day with Rashford storming off and Eric Ten Hag. Let's talk a little bit more about a very significant detail that Newcastle United have a ridiculous amount of injuries at the moment. And I'm not just talking piddly injuries. I'm talking injuries where we have had 3 goalkeepers on the bench in the past week in different matches. And I look at what we've managed to achieve in 7 days. Chelsea, pretty in form, bit of a spring in the step. Bang, gone, 4-1, see you later, battered. PSG away, went toe-to-toe with Kylian Mbappe in one of the most hostile environments you can get in the Champions League. And we should have won the match. We were seconds away from a famous European victory. And we didn't even make a substitute. On to Man United. Another game, 3 days later. exactly the same starting 11 with no substitutes to bring on again, and we absolutely battered them. And I do not know, this is what I want to talk about more, that I should be seeing more of. How many teams, and this is including the big boys, would have the amount of injuries that we do and still continue to be in the form that we are in, playing as well as we are? We're not luckily getting points here and there. And I look at any teams in the Premier League right now who've got similar injuries. Tottenham is the first one that comes to mind, and they are spiralling. Yes, you can argue they've maybe lost bigger players in certain areas, but as soon as those injuries have hit Tottenham, they've gone on a downward spiral. And you expected, every single neutral expected Newcastle, with the congestion that we've talked about so much, to start dropping off. What have we done? We've done the total opposite. And I tell you what, even Manchester City, even the famous, amazing Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, if they had to deal with the injuries that they have, bearing in mind, Botman, our best centre-backs out. So if Man City lost one of theirs, yes, they've got two squads, but I do not think they would be playing as convincing as what we are. And yes, it's two different realms of football. It's two different squads. Their biggest centre-back and their biggest striker, we're missing Callum Wilson. They don't really have two strikers, really. But what I'm trying to point out is I don't think there are many teams in Europe, your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, that would deal as well as we have with a ridiculous injury and fixture pile-up. There has barely been any substitutes made in 270, 280 if you had injury time. With that PSG game in mind, there's barely any subs been made. Miley's played pretty much every minute. Isak, Lascelles putting in a shift. He's not even our first starting centre-back. Trippier, God, he's just getting assist after assist after assist and consistently performing. Livramento, the point I'm trying to make that annoys me a little bit is what we should be talking about and seeing more of is huge articles being written up, like Ange at Tottenham has had earlier in the season, about the absolutely incredible job that Eddie Howe is doing, not just because he's making Newcastle a hard team to play against, but because he's doing it with the injuries, with the fixtures, and everybody said this would not happen in a million years. And to a degree, me included. And I think the fact that he is managing to get a shift out of the players that he is, who are just having to go game after game after game with the same intensity, the same consistency, the same quality, is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Now, on to the match itself. Yes, everyone will say Man United was poor. And yes, as much satisfaction as it brings me to say it, Man United, in the last two seasons, including when we beat them 2-0, this is the worst Man United team in my lifetime. The team that I hate, that I have seen. It is shocking. Like Marcus Rashford, I think he's on about £300,000 a week. He was like a school child that was forced to get out of bed on that pitch on Saturday night. No tracking, no chasing, no quality in the final third. They are in some deep shite. From Onana at the back, who cost a lot of money, who looks, by the way, one of the dodgiest keepers I've seen for a long time. He wasn't at fault for any goal mistakes, but he fell over on a goal kick. He was flapping at crosses. I don't know. I know he had a decent reputation when they signed him. Of course he did. That's why they spent the money. But everything from the goalkeeper to the forward, shocking. And I love to see it. And long may Eric Ten Hag. Everyone's saying a new manager's not the answer. I say stick with him. I say give him freedom of Manchester, to be totally honest with you. But that's enough about the opposition, because let's talk about why Newcastle was so good. And I'm going to keep naming some of the same names. Now again, Anthony Gordon, I didn't think against PSG he offered us as much as what we saw tonight and against Chelsea on Tuesday. Man United could not deal with him. They could not deal with him. And I'm looking at who gets in the England squads on that pitch on Saturday. You've got Anthony Gordon, fresh as a daisy, raring to go, form of his life, and you've got Marcus Rashford at the other end of the pitch. I just don't understand what Gareth Southgate, with two friendlies, and I keep talking about them, that had just gone in November, what his logic is, because that man is simply unplayable at the moment in the Premier League. Look at his record. I think that's 7 goal contributions, assists and goals, not just all goals, in his last 8 games. He is a man in the form of his life. And guess who he's going to next? The nice little trip down to Merseyside against the team that chased him in his car. I cannot wait for that one. He was absolutely incredible. I thought Bruno and Joelinton, I said before the match, the battle of the Brunos is important. You're getting Bruno Fernandes's head. I don't like the guy's attitude. It stinks. How he's a club captain sums up Man United's downfall for me. And Bruno won the battle early. our Bruno, the real Bruno. He was fantastic, spreading the ball about. I've watched some of his highlight reels on Twitter. Just some of his silky touches, his press, his aggression, and his celebrations at the end summed up what was an absolute incredible performance by him. And Joe Linton, can I just say, on the mention of the two Brazilians, is starting to get back to his best. Literally, long bursting drives with the ball up the pitch, aggressive tackles. Just from the first whistle, Joe Linton out with the two of them in terms of what I wanted to see against Man United early in this game under the lights. He probably epitomised why we were so good. Just that fire, and Bruno has the fire, but Joe Linton has the athleticism with the fire, and that makes a massive difference. And that's why on some matches Joe Linton can be unplayable. Our two fullbacks are absolutely incredible, and I'm going to say it, I don't mean to sound harsh in saying it, Dan Burn, I feel for the guy, because if I'm watching in the stands, and he will have been, or at home with his missus, I know I'm not getting in the team. Livramento looks for me. Jesus Christ, at right back, at left back, wherever you want to play him. He's good going forward. I would probably play him on the wing. He's carrying of the ball, and I talked about him after the PSG game. The conversations are becoming repetitive because the same players are playing consistently well, and I could talk about every single one. But Livramento, for me, his contribution at the other end of the field is almost becoming just as important as what he does at the back. And he had an easy night against Rashford, but you can only have an easy night by being on your game. And I can see why Eddie Howe spent 35 million on him. I really, really can. And if he continues to play like this, we cannot go back to Dan Burn. We can't. If Livramento was a little bit suspect defensively, which I think Lewis Hall might fall into that category, maybe me being harsh so early in his career, but I think that could be the case. There's going to be an argument. Dan Burn offers us something a little bit more. Look how many clean sheets we are picking up with Livramento, but also look at the attacking dimension that he offers, and that has to come into the conversation. And with regards to player performances, I think there's only one place to finish, and that's got to be Lewis Miley. Lewis Miley, I think that is a name that a lot more people will know in a couple of years, because as a neutral, if I'm watching the PSG match, which I probably would have if I was a neutral sitting at home, and then I'm watching the Saturday night game, I'd be watching him thinking, who's that? Who's that Miley kid Newcastle playing in midfield? Because he looks the real deal, and he does. He really, really does. He has not looked out of place at all. And the more he's playing, the more he's learning his teammates. And for him to not make us miss Longstaff as much, which has been a problem for us in the last year and a half for what he contributes, is full testament to Miley, because there has not been another player that has offered us a platform for Longstaff to not be as much of a miss, because that's how important Longstaff is. And I've got no doubts Eddie Howe will probably look to bring Longstaff back in, but Miley, like the Cells, is saying, you're not walking back at this team, mate. And that's what we have in Newcastle. And I look elsewhere, I look at other teams and I think, would other players be fighting like what ours do and coming in and making such an impression? And that's all down to one thing, Mr. Sir Eddie Howe. I think his middle name's John. I might just say that on Twitter, someone's made it up. What a man. To think that some people will call him for Eddie Howe's head. Look at Man United. Man United will be leaving St James's last night, waking up with hangovers today, thinking, wow, that club, and I think Chelsea did the same last Saturday, that club epitomises everything I wish mine was. And don't forget that, Newcastle fans, that's how lucky we are. Now, on a more negative, and I don't want to make this video negative at all, because things are absolutely class, Nick Pope. Oh, Nick Pope. He's been playing so well for us. It doesn't look good. I saw the photo of his shoulder, like, sticking out. Sorry, man. Dog's getting a little bit impatient on this video now. I saw his bone sticking out. Dubravka, capable replacement. I've got my opinions on Dubravka. I always have since he left. I wanted him to do what Lascelles has done and fight for his place. Dubravka down tools, and I think he would still be at Man United if he could be. That's never sat very well with me, but that's just me personally. A lot of people will jump in the comments and call me bitter. We all allowed our opinion. I'm just very proud as a fan. Maybe a little bit too proud. Maybe that does make me a bit fickle. I don't know. He'll come in and do a capable job. His kicking's a little bit better than Pope's. We know Dubravka's a good shot stopper, but it looks like we could be missing another player. On to Everton on Thursday we go, but Newcastle fans, just take a step back. Don't just look at the Man United game. Look at what Eddie Howe's Mags are achieving with an injury list that I cannot remember being worse in my time supporting this football club. We are absolutely flying against all the odds, and I feel like whatever you chuck at Eddie Howe, whether it's an injury, whether it's losing to him, whether it's fixture congestion, whether it's PSG away in the Champions League, whether it's Chelsea and Man United in a week, this was our hardest week of the season. I called it when the Champions League fixtures came out, and we've come out with 7 points, what should have been 9. I can't get my head around it sometimes. I don't know what I'm watching. I'm in dreamland. Every single person in that beautiful church behind me is in dreamland at the moment, and long may it continue. On to Everton we go on Thursday. I'm looking forward to that one. Let's hope it's anything like our last trip down to Merseyside. That lovely 4-1 and a certain Alexander Isak assist that you might all remember. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans. Enjoy your fun in the snow. Maybe make a snowman, and if you do, let's dedicate it to Eddie Howe's Mags. I think I might try and carve him out of a snowman, actually. Should we do that later, Mags? I'll see you on the next video, Newcastle fans. Oh, yeah, lads!